All right, good afternoon, folks. This is Faris with TwT, and today's going to kick off another YouTube video here covering the weekend chart prep, where basically I just go over what charts I'm looking at, what setups I like ahead of the upcoming week to help you guys make some money. Okay, haven't been able to put these out lately. It's been a pretty busy summer for me, but I'm going to try to get a little bit more consistent here. And on top of that, I wanted to mention, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to it. Again, more educational videos coming out this week. And if you want to take your trading to a whole other level, for those of you that aren't members, join us in chat for a free week, right? You get a full free week without any credit card requirement, nothing. That includes the screen share, audio, all that good stuff in the chat room. Okay, that's tradewithtex.com. Either way, let's get into it. We're going to start it off with the S&P here and just talk about general money flow, right? Because one thing that has been pretty important in this market over the summer, you have to be really strict with the trades that you're taking, and you have to look at different groups, right? Whether it's meme stocks like AMC, whether it's, EV stocks like Tesla. This past week we saw a lot of money flowing into COVID names, right? Because of all the Delta variant hype, and then into infrastructure names, right? Which also included a lot of EV stocks. So realistically, going into this week, I'll cover the S&P in just a second, but a couple of groups to focus on. These two, just pick your favorite, right? We're going to go over two in today's video, one of which is APT. But pick your favorite, watch it. Realistically, these two groups will move one, maybe two more days before exhausting. Okay, that's my take on it. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the markets are getting a little bit exhausted here. If you couldn't tell, this is a pretty common thing over the summer, but the S&P has kind of just lost a little bit of steam. The sell volume days have been considerably higher, which is a little bit alarming. The other minor red flag here is that a lot of tech names started to put in pretty bearish weekly and monthly candles. I know that this is just a minor note, but one thing that I do a lot, and that a lot of experienced traders do, is we look at the larger time frames, right? Not just the daily, not just the weekly, but we zoom it out to the monthly. And that's something that you actually have to do as of this week, because it gives you an idea of what supply and demand looks like on a bigger scale. So one little note that I made is, for a lot of these monthly candles, Amazon included, after that poor earnings report, they're actually showing some pretty big sell pressure. And this is obviously a monthly candle that looks more bearish than others, but you get the gist, okay? So one of the little cautionary notes here for the S&P before we get into anything else, basically, I'm not a huge fan of how tech stocks are looking at this exact point in time. I think realistically, we could get a 1 to 2 day pullback from some of the bigger names. And for the S&P, what that boils down to is really just holding support. If we're unable to hold support next week, I will gladly take the short. If we close above 4402.75, again, we're looking at futures here, just to keep it simple, right? You can use the same logic for SPY or SPX. But 4402.75, this has been a magnet and a huge level. It's basically right here, this purple line, okay? If we're able to close above that, that would be bullish for the next leg up, right? In which the next target would be about 4450, by the way. If we do not hold above that level, the two big support levels below are 4384.5. Okay, you can see that's where we closed on that big down day earlier in the week, right? You guys probably remember that day. It was actually kind of scary. And then we rallied from that. So that right there, close below that level would be bearish. Close above this level would be bullish. And what this gives us, if we zoom it into the hourly time frame, what this gives us is a pretty tight box here. Basically, we're just concentrating all of the range within these two levels, right? And then we also have bigger resistance above, bigger support below, and that's at 4365 and 4422.5. Okay, so there are 4 key levels in total. The two big ones to me being these two, 4384 and then 4402. Obviously, close below or above those two levels, vice versa, would be bullish or bearish. Okay, so just to keep it simple, use those two levels. Do not force too many trades on the S&P, because this is actually a pretty choppy chart since we're going sideways. Long-term trend is obviously intact. Only note of caution here again is if we get a close under 4384.5 with tech names pulling back. That would be a pretty big red flag. Okay, so far we're still bullish. Be open-minded to both sides of the trade here and just use those two levels as the deciding factors for whether you go long or short this week. Okay, simple, right? Now, we're not going to go over the Russell 2000 or the NASDAQ. I want to leave those out of the analysis because they kind of just overcomplicate things, whereas the S&P is a pretty straightforward chart. The only other side note I want to add, and this is mainly for members, make sure that you update your fibs on the monthly candles. That's a more advanced thing if you understand Fibonacci retracements. If you don't know how to do that, we have videos of that on the YouTube channel. But again, members, make sure you update that. I've already updated them for the S&P. Okay. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's get into the momentum plays because again, we could easily get another day or two of COVID stocks popping up. So a couple of tickers on my momentum watch list here. These are the ones we're going to go over. APT. Okay. I wanted to also mention NIO briefly, which is kind of a random one, but just going to pop that in there. And then also MSTR, all right, which is the basically, Bitcoin tracking stock, right? Because they own a ton of crypto. So normally if Bitcoin pops up, that one pops up. And obviously if it drops with it. Okay. Now, APT, and by the way, we are going to go over earnings too. So I'll talk earnings here at the end of this video briefly. But APT is one of the COVID stocks that really followed through on Friday. It's already been moving for quite a bit, and it has earnings in 2 days. So this isn't me being a pessimist. I'm just being realistic here. Realistically, we'll get 1 to 2 more days of movement from this, if that, right? We could easily exhaust on Monday. So for APT, I'm looking to take advantage of that. We had the high relative volume and a strong close, right? We closed near the high of that candle on Friday. Unfortunately, we closed under 2 big key levels. Basically here for APT, there's a zone above that has 2 key levels. That's 12.15 and 12.33. Also, side note, you can play options on this one too if you don't want to play common stock, but that's the big resistance zone. And then above that, we have room to 13 flat, which is a fib retracement. Below the big level is 1150, and to me, that's what keeps this in play. As long as we stay above 1150, we stay in play, and we can keep trading this on the way up. Okay, but the next signal would be a break of 1233. If that happens, it should just be an immediate magnet to 13 bucks. Okay, and again, wait for confirmation from this because it should be exhausting in the next day or two, so you want to be strict with it. All right, wait for that confirmation over that resistance zone. Okay, brief mention here on NIO, and this is really a note for all EV stocks. Like if you looked at Tesla this week, my chart looks pretty absurd for Tesla right now because I got all my day trade levels drawn up. But if you looked at Tesla this week, it got rejected hard at the resistance zone, right, after running up. And frankly, it's not signaling a follow through. However, there are a couple of EV names that have a pretty high short interest and also are hitting trend resistance. So big note here, and this is on both sides of the trade, kind of an inflection point, right? Kind of a make or break here for some of these EV names because NIO, the make or break is basically 44.88. It's a historical level, which also overlaps with the 20 daily SMA, right? Which is a big trend indicator. So see here, we were testing $47 resistance and the 20 SMA immediately tanked back down. Right now, we're doing the same thing where we're testing another big level and the 20 SMA again, this time with a little bit better structure, right? Because we have a catalyst from the infrastructure and this chart in general has improved, right? Volume's up, we have a higher momentum move. There's a better chance at pushing through here. So my note for NIO, any base that we get over 44.88, this is what it looks like zoomed in. This is the level. See how we hit this on Friday? Couldn't stay above it, rejected, right? So any base above that sends us up to the next leg. Very simple. If we're unable to hold it, we should drop back down to this level, 42.41. It's an old significant level right there. And that's only, $2.50 lower. So it's a pretty realistic target. So NIO's at a make or break. I'm looking for the confirmation on the long side. That would be the ideal play for me. If you don't like this one, any other one of the EV names will match up similarly. Like Tesla's also at resistance, doesn't look like it's going to break, but you could set the alert and be patient. XPEV, LI, whatever. Okay. Now, next ticker here, just to move on. So again, just to cover that, APT likely exhausting soon, NIO likely exhausting soon, but we should get a Monday trade out of them. Okay. MSTR, this is kind of my weird take for the weekend. Not really a popular opinion that Bitcoin's going to keep this run up going. And MicroStrategy, being one of those companies that just hoards crypto, moves up along with it. So the last time MSTR ran up, you can see that it bumped into resistance twice and it couldn't hold. Clearly 693 is the huge resistance zone. The other area that's worth noting here, 660 has kind of been a magnet. I don't have it drawn up. It's just a day trade target that you would be using. But basically for MSTR, the game plan here is that Bitcoin actually looks like it could trap bears on this push. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but if you look at Bitcoin, it's been closing higher, right? That's where this thesis is coming from. Closing prices are all that we really care about. If we're able to close higher or lower, that shows the supply and demand, right? So in this case, Bitcoin closing higher shows that demand is actually stronger than the last couple of bounces. And we could go up to the high 42,000s, right? Right here, 42,730. So not to get too much into crypto, but there are ways that you can make money on this with common stock and with options. One of which is MSTR. If you don't like this play, there are obviously the go-to blockchain names like Riot and Marathon, M-A-R-A, right? But this is a really good options and day trade name, right? It gives plenty of range. So basic game plan, if it gets back above 634.13, that's this purple line, then it should be able to rally to 660 and 693. This was the magnet last time as well, and that would be the big target above. Okay. So pretty simple, MSTR, watching it long this week. This isn't one of those plays where I'm watching long and short. If it breaks down into this gap, I don't really feel comfortable playing the short side, and that would be pretty convincing for a short, so I would just leave it alone, right? That would contradict everything else that I'm looking at for it. Okay, so make sure it reclaims that level. That would be your signal. Look for the move up to 660 and 693. Okay, now let's talk earnings for a sec here. This is a pretty simple earnings calendar, right? Basically, eWhispers, Earnings Whispers, tweets us out every week. It shows you what tickers are reporting when. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. There are a lot of aggressive growth names reporting, which should be fun. Most of them, like Roku, even Alibaba, a lot of these earnings are probably already baked in. Alibaba's been kind of a wild card lately, but Roku, Square, etc. The names that I'm mainly looking at are these. GM reports earnings before the bell on Wednesday, expecting good results, and in general, this is one of the EV names that's pretty hyped up. Okay. Alibaba, I'll be watching just for day trades. Okay. Corsair if they get good results, but mainly Alibaba on Tuesday. Okay. Wednesday and Thursday, Roku should be fun to day trade on Thursday, the day after the results. Okay. And then the two other tickers are HIMX, which is a semiconductor company, and DraftKings. These are the names I'm most excited about. I know that AMC reports. I know that Virgin Galactic reports. A lot of pot stocks. So there are a lot of meme names that will be reporting earnings, but this is going to be my main focus for day trades. Okay, those names that I circled. So gave you guys 3 momentum plays to look at, updated you on what I thought about the S&P for the upcoming week, and 1 name each day of the week to watch for earnings. All right, so keep it simple. Don't overtrade because the markets are actually choppier than you would think. All right, and let's make some money. All right, have a great weekend, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. And again, if you want to sign up for a free week in the Trade with Tex chat, we'd love to have you. All right, have a good one, everybody.